How's everyone doing today? I just thought I would take a minute to share with you guys my testimony of the love of Jesus. Uh, I guess it could start off when I was 18 years old. I watched The Passion of the Christ with my grandfather. Um, I was joking with my girlfriend at the time, and I said that I'd just come out in the theater. So I told her I'm gonna drop acid and watch this movie in the theater. And although she didn't like me doing acid, she agreed uh, that she would permit me to take LSD and watch this movie with her in the theater. And so I missed it in the theater, but sometime after we found ourselves in the video store looking for movies to rent, and The Passion of the Christ was on the shelf. And so I turned over to her and I was like, tonight's the night kind of deal. And I was living with my grandfather at the time. And so that night, I brought the DVD over to my grandfather's place, and we sat, the three of us together, and watched the movie. And although my grandfather couldn't read or write other than his first name, and the entire movie is in subtitles, I just noticed his complete focus and undivided attention to the movie. And it got to the part where they were crucifying Jesus. They were driving the nails through his hands and through his feet, and he was forgiving them as they were doing it. And I turned over to my grandfather and I asked him, I said, "Is all this real? Did this really happen?" And he gave me the most serious look I had ever seen him give anybody in my life. He was a man of very few words, a very quiet person. He didn't speak much. And he turned over to me and looked at me straight in the eyes with a very serious, stern look, and he said, "Jesus died on the cross for you. Don't ever forget it." And it shook me right to the core. And I grabbed my Bible after that. My mother had a Bible. She gave it to me, and I started reading every day and worshiping to the best I could, just on my own, without much experience with the thing, and fasting and this sort of thing. But I would continue to do the drugs, the alcohol, just completely live in sin. But I like to say I had him at that point in my heart, in my belief. I believed in the Lord. I trusted that He had done this merciful sacrifice for us, and so I continued to live in just gross sin for many years, until 2 years ago. I was living with my girlfriend at the time. We were doing drugs, alcohol every day, crystal meth, anything really we could get our hands on. And then I come to just a boiling point. Originally, I was trying to save her by my own will, which is kind of ridiculous. Like, but I was trying to get her off of meth, which is why I had kind of indulged in it with her. So I thought that then she would hear me out or this sort of thing, and it just turned into a year of complete chaos. And it come to the point where I was holding her down, keeping her from cutting herself and this and that. I didn't have a phone at the time, but I reached for her phone. I called her mother and I said, "You gotta come pick her up. Like, there's nothing I can do anymore." And so she went to rehab, and then I was left there alone and trying to quit drugs and alcohol. And I had got myself a tablet. I was recording music, and I was grabbing the Wi-Fi signals from my neighbors, and so I couldn't have the internet right in my apartment. So I would need to go out to the sidewalk, let's say on the edge of the lawn, to get these Wi-Fi signals from various neighbors that had either shared with me their password or I had figured it out. And it was 3 a.m. one night, and somewhere's around there, 3 a.m., 4 a.m. And I took note of someone walking down the block. It was kind of a dark, kind of rainy October night, and they had like a hood on, and they were kind of walking with their head down, and I just had a feeling that they were going to turn the corner and walk up my way. And sure enough, they did. They were on the opposite side of the road. And just when it seemed like they were about to just pass me by, this person turned their head and they asked, "Do you have a cigarette?" And I replied, I said, "Yes, I have a cigarette." So they came, had a cigarette with me. They were explaining that they had just gotten out and that they were looking for their family. And like I said, it was kind of a chilly October night, and they had minimal clothes, a little hoodie. And so I decided to invite him into my place, where I clothed them, I fed them. But yeah, I invited a complete stranger into my house at 3 a.m. He was just telling me they had just gotten out of jail and this sort of thing, and they had a pretty heavy vibe. Sometimes they say like the stench of death, and kind of under the impression that he was there to kill me. But we sat and we spoke for what seemed forever. I think it was 3 days. We sat across from a table together and talked. And we sort of became friends in a sense. And it's sort of a drawn out story at that point. But at the end of the visit, he sort of got up and he was at the doorway and he said, "Well, I guess you don't get it." He said, "I tried to help you, but good luck with everything. I was doing tattoos at the time. Good luck with your tattoos, and I hope everything goes well, but you just don't understand what I'm trying to say," this sort of thing. And I said, "Well, no, you got to come and sit and explain to me." So we had been sitting across the table the whole time, so he pulled up a chair right beside me. And basically, long story short, uh, he said, Luke, he said, there's these higher ups and they love you and they're going to do something big for you tonight. And I had just befriended a new tattoo client. My ex had hacked into all my social media and my Wi-Fi, telephone number, and sort of cut me off of contact with all my clients, and so I wasn't making a lot of money, and I was having a hard time getting by, and just finding basic food. I had been eating out of trash cans and sort of scoping out dumpsters and finding some food and soup kitchens, this sort of thing. And so he said there's these higher ups and they love you, they're going to do something for you. But he said this person you just befriended within the last month, he said they were going to come here tonight, and the words he used, he said they were going to stab you in the face, and they were going to take all your possessions and what little I had, and this sort of thing. And he says, but when they get here, you're not going to be here. You're going to slip out the back door, and I'll be here in your place. And I thought he was just, making this stuff up or what have you. And I got up, I leaped up, and I just started asking him, are you for real? Is this real? And right about then, I heard a car pull up in front of my place. And I looked at him, and he just sort of signaled me to go through the back door and go wait in the shed. There was a shed in back of my place where I had invited him to crash. There was like a foam bed. And so he said, go wait over there. So I went in there, and my mind, my heart, everything was just racing, and confusion and fear, and so I kind of heard a bit of a bustle, some kind of commotion going on. And then I heard someone run past the door of the shed, and I waited a few more minutes. And then I came out of the shed, and I went through in the back alley, and I ran down the back alley. I didn't know what to do, if I should call the cops, or I didn't know if someone had just got murdered in my living room, or what was going on. But I found myself in front of a Husky gas station on 118 Avenue in Edmonton. And a black SUV pulled up beside me and kind of turned in front of me at the corner at the street light, and slowed down, and the back driver's side window rolled down. It was tinted windows, and a handgun came out at the window and fired directly at me. There was fire came out of the barrel of the gun. I was only a short distance from the SUV, and so they shot right at me. And but the gun didn't make a noise. The SUV didn't make a noise as it spun off. The wind didn't make a noise. It was a silence beyond any silence I had ever experienced. And I was left there in this parking lot, just kind of looking down on myself, looking for the gunshot wound or what have you, and I realized that I was completely unharmed. And as I was standing there trying to sort this all out in my head, what happened, the presence of God came crashing down on me, and it was this crazy moment where I felt like I could see God in everything, like a blade of grass or a stone, or I kind of realized that He can get into anything, He can do whatever He wants. Uh, His presence is just constantly inside of us and all around us, and He's the Holy Spirit in that moment really came down and took a hold of my life and has been guiding me around ever since. Uh, it was the day before Thanksgiving this all happened, and so I just kind of let the Spirit guide me. The next day, I ended up at a church, in the basement of the church, where they had this soup kitchen, and from there, I mean, that was 2 years ago, and it's been 2 years now, just constantly interceding with the Lord, and it's changed my life completely, and completely off of drugs and alcohol, and free from lust and these sort of things, and I've just been pursuing this ever since, and I just wanted to share this little testimony with you guys on my YouTube channel to sort of kick things off, and that's about it. Glory be to God. Jesus is in you to give, and He loves you